Hey, Roger Martin here from Billings, Montana. Good day. This is really strange. He talks about Kevin Spacey's accuser dying in the midst of sexual assault lawsuit. This is the second one that dies? How's that possible?
Dying. Think about that for a second. It doesn't really make sense, does it? Now, the Justice Department is now indicting more sexual predators. Today, they announced the arrest of Jonathan Skolnick on charges of child enticement, production, receipt, and possession of child pornography. And this individual was an associate principal of Bronx Private School. And what he did, he posed as a teenage girl on the internet and had these teenagers send nude pictures. And if they stopped sending him nude pictures, he'd said, I'll expose you with the new pictures that I have.
Messed, messed up, sick people. What can I say? Let's go on here. Is a Pennsylvania senator has been arrested for porn? Wow. And sexual abuse stuff? I don't know. Pretty sick.
Arrested on child porn charges. Remember, it's not just Democrat, Republican senators or representatives. It's going to be all these individuals that are corrupt. And there's a lot of them. A lot of individuals in government, they are completely corrupt. And when
What an understatement. Now another arrest. Ed Buck. Who in the heck is Ed Buck?
overdosed in his apartment. Now, this individual gave a lot of money to the Democratic Party. Friends with Clinton. Guess what? It's starting to unravel. And what's very interesting is that Q, back in post 3392, mentioned this. This is July 2019. Gave us the CBS News article and says Democratic donor Ed Buck accused of human trafficking and revenge porn after man dies in his home. And Q says the hunters become the hunted. If you notice, all these individuals, they're all becoming the hunted. The Justice Department and law enforcement, they're going after all of this. Now, the Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz, he was testifying in front of Congress today, not full Congress, but many of them, and he said something very interesting. Horowitz revealed to the lawmakers that he criminally referred former FBI Director James Comey for prosecution. Wait a minute.
Criminally accused of prosecution. Wow.
You mean he actually thought that he was committing crimes and he thought he should be prosecuted? Why would James Comey want an apology for that? This doesn't sound good for Comey. Who didn't want to prosecute? The Department of Justice. They declined to prosecute. So I.G. Horowitz said, yeah, what we found, there's enough here to prosecute. He committed crimes. But the Department of Justice said, you know what, we're going to hold off. Why? Why do they want to hold?
Now, this is very interesting because it's finally coming to a head. The Department of Justice is so corrupt, and they don't want to lay all this out because there's going to be a lot of heads roll. They know that they're corrupt. And the higher echelons, it stinks big time. That's why they don't want to prosecute. Simple.
Hold off because they knew the next report that was coming up was the FISA applications. That's a slam dunk. They wanted his signatures and they wanted the documentation on the FISA warrants to be produced so they could use that to say, hey, it's not like he didn't mean to do it. It was done by accident. No, he signed this. He knew exactly what he was doing. And we know that Barr has what? Well, he has a report. They're reviewing it. But very interestingly, Nadler, he's been pushing impeachment. Now, this information was brought out into the open way before Horowitz testified. And Jim Jordan wants to know if Nadler is going to have Horowitz, and he wants to know if he's going to have him testify, because this is pretty damaging stuff. He tweeted out the following: has at Rep. Jerry Nadler been in contact with IG Horowitz about scheduling a hearing on the FISA abuse report? Nadler will review any such letter. Jim Jordan says, the letter came last week and it's only 2 pages long. Are you trying to tell me that the Inspector General, Bill Barr, they're reviewing all of this information, the IG put this out there, and Nadler is not even looking at it when there are crimes sitting right in front of him? And the letter is only 2 pages. He can't read 2 pages? No, they don't want to look at this. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They're going to have to force them to look at this. Eventually, they're going to have to do.
Now, I don't know how they're going to force them to look at it. But legally, this nation has to wake up, and the good is going to have to prevail, and the good judges are going to have to go after these people, because there are way too many corrupt judges and corrupt politicians, and the House needs to be cleaned, and the Senate needs to be cleaned, and probably some people in the White House need to be cleaned. This is bad, bad, bad. The swamp is deep and wide.
Do something, because the evidence will be overwhelming. And you know, Jordan, Meadows, Representative Collins, they're going to hit him over the head, and he will be stuck. He will have to drop impeachment to go after the real crimes. Or maybe he needs to be removed from his position. That's another way. Now, Andrew McCabe, he said something very interesting. He said he will not, under any circumstances, accept a plea deal if indicted for lying about leaks to the press. Now, listen to what he said here. That under any circumstances, accept a plea deal if indicted for lying about leaks to the press. Well, what about a plea deal for other crimes? Is he open to that? Because he didn't say that he's not going to accept a plea deal if he's involved in the FISA abuse, if he's involved in something else, only about lying about leaks. So that's very interesting. So is he going to flip? Maybe. Paul Sperry tweeted out the following: breaking. It will soon become abundantly clear that the claim stated under oath by Comey, Lisa Page, Strzok, and McCabe that they didn't receive any Steele dossier information at FBI headquarters until mid-September is a monumental lie, or, as they say in Washington speak, lacking in candor. So, yeah, McCabe might have said that, for lying, I'm not going to flip, but if it goes any deeper than that, I might have to. We'll have to see how this all plays out. Now, Trump, he got rid of Bolton, as we know. He was a neocon. And he decided to announce Robert C. O'Brien to replace John Bolton. And this individual is a presidential envoy for hostage affairs at the State Department. Now, he did work for Condoleezza Rice, Hillary Clinton, and we'll have to see what this individual does, how he plays the game. Is he a white hat or is he a black hat? Trump tweeted out the following: I am pleased to announce that I will name Robert C. O'Brien, currently serving as the very successful special presidential envoy for hostage affairs at the State Department, as our new national security advisor. I have worked long and hard with Robert. He will do a great job. Now, Trump did consider O'Brien for Navy Secretary in 2017, but instead appointed him to the State Department position. So I do believe that Trump is saying that he's worked long and hard with him, and he was also responsible for getting ASAP out of Sweden. He negotiated those terms. He might be a white hat, and he might be on Trump's side. We'll have to see how this plays out. Now, very interestingly, Saudi Arabia, they revealed the evidence that, yes, Iran was involved in the attacks. And they laid out all the pieces, the cruise missiles. And what they're saying is that there were 18 Delta Wing UAVs and 7 cruise missiles fired at the production facility. And they're saying it was not Yemen, but they stopped short in saying that it was definitely Iran. They were saying that it came from the north or so, but didn't say it was definitely Iran. Now, the problem with all this is that we know there are air defense missile systems set up to protect the oil facilities around Saudi Arabia. Why didn't the air defense systems launch during the attack? Think about that for a second. Cruise
So air defense systems were set around it. They didn't launch those air defense systems. Why? Again, I don't trust the Middle East. There's too many elite groups there that are pulling strings and have been for a long time with this oil business.
missiles were headed in. I mean, do they not work? Did someone shut them down? Did someone want this to happen? It's starting to seem that way. And it seems that everyone wanted to push some type of Iran war or have a war break out in the Middle East. But guess what? Trump, he doesn't play that game. He's not looking for a war. He tweeted out, "I have just instructed the Secretary of the Treasury to substantially increase sanctions on the country of Iran." Trump is putting pressure on Iran, but he's not willing to go to war. He was not willing to go to war with North Korea, Syria. He is a negotiator. He puts pressure on the country until they're ready and willing to negotiate. Now, I do believe there was a backroom deal that was already made. They're playing out the show. We've seen this before in North Korea. And I believe sooner than later, we're going to see either side, don't know which, most likely Iran, start to say, listen, we need to talk. Now, are they going to say that? No. It will come out in another way. Just like with North Korea. If you noticed, Iran has given Europe many, many chances. We know that John Kerry has been out there and other former government officials. They were out in Iran trying to keep this deal together. And believe me, you only go out there is if you have a stake in that deal. Because if it's just a nuclear deal and Trump just wants to create a new one, it's not really that big of a deal. But if the deal encompasses something else that affects you, that's why you personally go to Iran and say, hey, don't drop this deal.
Problem is, I don't trust Kerry. I don't even know why he's still a secretary. Don't trust him worth a dang. Should be replaced. I don't know. Maybe they've got some goods on Kerry and he's actually doing something worthwhile. You never know what's going on behind scenes. Anyhow, going to give you this full report. The most breaking news here is that Horowitz said that Comey has committed criminal acts. That's the greatest information out of this whole thing. So review it fully. I'll give you a link on it. Horowitz is saying that Comey needs to be prosecuted legally for the crimes he's committed. That is the best news I've heard in a long time. May the White Hats be victorious. May you guys join with them and push the legal action that needs to take place to clean up this very corrupt legal system. Will the Fox clean up their act, the Foxes? I don't know. But I know it's divided between the white and the black hats, and there's the biggest battle that we've ever seen in our history currently going on, and has been going on long before Trump was elected. This actually started during the Clinton's administration, as far as we can tell, and has continued since. But Trump has been a pivotal key and pin in getting it accelerated. And there's been key players raise their head and have been working long and hard behind the scenes. And Horowitz is one of them. Durham is another. We'll see how Barr plays out on all this stuff. I still believe he's a little soft. I don't think he's as hard-nosed as he needs to be, but we'll see. It's Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Look at the X-22 report. It's one of the reports I fully trust. There are other sources too. Epic Times is a great one, and there's other sources too. Support the White Hats in whatever form you can. And I say these things in Jesus Christ's name. Our salvation, our legalities, our freedoms, they're tied up in obeying the laws. And unless we obey the laws and have them active on all levels, from the highest levels of the echelons that we know to the lowest levels, we're not totally free. And there's a split in justice that needs to be cleaned up, and we need to go after these people in the higher echelon. That has not happened for a long, long time, and it needs to start happening, even after Trump is reelected and even after he serves his second term. Pray that these will continue to go on. Q said that he was asked a question. He said, will this stuff continue after Trump is elected? And the Q said, yes, they've got a plan in place to make this stuff continue. And it will take longer than 2 terms to clean this mess up. That's the sad fact. Again, I say these things in Jesus Christ's name. Be faithful, be true, and realize that our freedoms are worth fighting for. Again, in Jesus Christ's name, amen.